different companies and 400 aircraft for 23 years until 1973. And that was after the Tet Offensive took place in 1968. So those are some of the interesting things that we take a look back at in that history.
Well, and I believe Vietnam was the first, and maybe not even then, but our military today is basically supported by contract labor, and a lot of folks don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to explain it to them, but it's a different military from 1965 or 1970, and it will continue. By the way, I wanted to mention, as you were talking about Vietnam and the number of casualties, the Johns Creek Veterans Association, the Vietnam Veterans Association, will be putting up the wall, and will have they're getting the damage repaired and so forth from vandalism, and they will be having an opening of it in the near future. And stay tuned to this show and many of our shows on America's Web Radio, and we'll be announcing when the Johns Creek Healing Wall, the Vietnam Healing Wall, will be available. You can go actually see it now. But it's under refinishing and from the vandalism that occurred, and they're working on it, and they'll be announcing a date. And then they got caught up in the COVID-19 virus on opening, so it will be coming, and we'll let you know when, and hopefully, Colonel, you'll be able to come out to it.
Got some interesting comments on the MiG-15 that you may be interested in.
Okay, sir.
The MiG-15 in July 1951, a MiG-15 was shot down up near Chodo, which is 150 miles behind the lines, and it landed in the mud flats in the Yellow Sea. And when the tide was in, it was on 30 feet of water. When the tide was out, it was exposed.
Huh.
So we brought in a ship with a crane when the tide was in 30 feet of water, and lifted that MiG-15 out and turned it over to the Air Force so they could evaluate it. The problem was the MiG-15 could fly faster and higher than our F-86. And the reason was that it had a Rolls-Royce engine in it that was made in England and purchased by Russia. So that was the reason for those planes could fly that fast and that higher. In 1952, a MiG was shot down up near the Yellow River. And my cohort, Lieutenant Jim Mapp, who we worked with, and he and I were together in North Korea, and he was running his own unit. He was in the area and saw that MiG get shot down, and he put his binoculars on it, and it was a Caucasian pilot and had to be Russian. So he took his old sail junk and headed for that plane, for the pilot. It was down, pulled his parachute, and he knew he was alive. He could get him. Well, it is now confirmed that in 2000 that pilot was killed by a second MiG, and we put that report in, but nobody believed us. Well, this was confirmed in 2004 by former President George W. Bush Sr. He narrated a film called Stalin's Secret Air Wars in North Korea. He said in 1952, the Air Force shot down a MiG-15, and the Russian pilot that was flying that thing was fixed to be captured, and Stalin ordered that second pilot to kill that first pilot, and that pilot done that. So we now have confirmed that that was a true case. In September 1953, Lieutenant No, who was a pilot as the war was ended in Korea in 1975, he actually was trying to get out with his wife and 5 children in a small Cessna.
Wow.
So as a result of that, he was able to take that Cessna and fly it out and landed on the Midway. He came in and landed that plane on the Midway. And as a result of that, that is now on Google, and you can look it up and see that landing on Google. I have talked to Lieutenant No, whose new name is Kenneth Lowe. We paid him $100,000 when he deserted with his Meg and flew it into Kimpo. He came in so fast and so low until Air Force didn't pick him up. Of course, Air Force claims that their radar was down for maintenance. So as a result, when he landed, the sergeant major came out to refuel him and thought it was an F-86.
Huh.
And then they looked up and it was a Meg. So they quickly put it in the hangar, took the wings off, put it on a C-124, and flew it to the Philippines. There, Lieutenant and flew that Meg to Ohio, where it's presently on display at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. I have maintained contact with Lieutenant No, now Kenneth Lowe, and he lives in Daytona Beach, Florida. And on in 2012, Lieutenant No, Kenneth Lowe, wanted to be interviewed by Voice of America. I arranged that interview with Voice of America, and that was broadcast on 28 August of 2012 into North Korea.
Huh.
South Korea listened to that broadcast and said it was very effective. I have talked to Kenneth Lowe many times in South Korea and in South Florida, and so he is in good shape today. He has 3 children. All of them have college degrees, and so as a result of that, that's a very effective program, and I still maintain contact with him.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Again, the rest of the story. I doubt that very many people know about that at all, and even though, like you said, it has been made into a historical film, I suppose, or there is information on it. But what would you? The one question that I always ask of a veteran is, do you know if you got a group of veterans together, of any one of them can tell just one story?
I have never got together with veterans that could tell just one story. So.
I think that's some kind of law or something that if you tell me one, then I got to tell you two. But anyway, what in your career, what would you pick as the most outstanding thing that just offhand you remember, or it comes back to you and you remember from anywhere? You may be under a circumstance or something like that, and something flashes back that you remembered from Korea or North Vietnam. Is there one thing that you'll just never forget?
Well, there's a story that I've very recent. A guy named Mel Newman was a member of our 82nd 40th Army Unit Special Forces in 1952-53, and he was in North Korea. He left the service after about 3 years, and in 2013, he decided to visit North Korea. He landed in North Korea on 26 October 2013 from China. That's where he had to go to get into North Korea. He started looking for some of his former North Korean guerrillas or partisans, and it didn't take long before North Korea quickly identified him as being a part of our Special Forces team, and they locked him up. So as a result, he stayed locked up in North Korea for 42 days and got national publicity, as some of you probably remember. In 42 days, he was still locked up in North Korea. On 1 December of 2013, CNN read my book. They gave me a call. They wanted to pick me up and interview me downtown Atlanta. They found out that I was a member of the 82nd 40th Army Unit. So as a result, they sent a limousine out to my house in Fayetteville, Georgia, picked me up, took me down to the CNN Center, and interviewed me live from Hong Kong and played that worldwide. The next day, I was interviewed by BBC from London, and then I got a call from Beijing, China, wanted to publish my book in China. So as a result, Mel Newman was released from North Korea 7 days later. And we really don't know why, because it was never been announced, but our sources think that China was responsible for that release, because Mel Newman's worldwide coverage was getting too much adverse publicity for China and North Korea, and they told North Korea to get him out of North Korea now, and that's what happened.
Interesting. And again, the rest of the story. I'm sure very, very